Despite being a popular genre, truly successful medieval historical games are rare. That changed in 2018 with the release of Kingdom Come: Deliverance. Developed by the small indie studio Warhorse, it surprised everyone with its deep role-playing mechanics, coming-of-age story, and grounded strategic combat. What really set it apart, however, was its authentic medieval setting and attention to historical detail. Set in early 15th century Bohemia, it became a breakout hit, and with this year's sequel nominated for Game of the Year, its legacy continues. Another standout title, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, won its own Game of the Year for its precise, timing-based combat, often praised as some of the best in gaming. Today, I'm excited to introduce a game that blends the strengths of both, the realism and setting of Kingdom Come: Deliverance with the rewarding skill-based combat of Sekiro, whilst including some grounded low fantasy elements similar to games like The Witcher. The game is Knight's Path, an upcoming third-person action RPG inspired by classics like Gothic II and set in a small handcrafted world inspired by the European Middle Ages. 2 years ago, they released a concept demo, but since then the game has changed significantly. I had the chance to sit down with the lead developer to learn more. In this interview, we discussed the game's setting, what players can expect, how it was built, what makes it unique, and when we might see the full release. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. And if you enjoy interviews like this, please consider subscribing and check the interview playlist in the video description. For people who have not heard of this game, if this is the first time hearing about it, can you give a brief description of what Knight's Path is?
Knight's Path is a story-driven action RPG set in a grounded, low-fantasy medieval world inspired by Central European history and mythology. Mostly Czechia or medieval Bohemia and Germany, or Holy Roman Empire at the time, right? You play as a young man who lost his way. He is aimless, broken, without purpose, good for nothing. He really doesn't know anything. He has to learn how to survive. He must find a meaning, redeem himself, and learn what it truly means to be both man and a knight. So it will be a classic become of age story as well as a typical zero to hero journey.
Were there specific games that inspired you, like Gothic, or like what made you want to make it? What games does it aim to replicate, so to speak?
So making a game that was always a dream, right? Like every gamer dreaming about your dream game. And I think I really focused on this dream since I was maybe 6 years old, so young. I began to write story and fragments of the mechanics. For example, at the time I played Might of Magic 7 and I liked certain mechanics or things, so I wrote it down what I wanted to have in my dream game, right? Later on I realized that making it a game is really unrealistic, so I wrote it more as a fantasy book that I will maybe release someday, publish someday. Few years later, I realized that it is not as unrealistic with today's tools and technology to make it a game. So yeah, I started to working on it, and here I am working on my dream game. Inspiration, yeah, of course, there are tons of games that inspired me, as I am a gamer, right? Gothic is the main inspiration, as for me, Gothic has the best RPG element that I have ever seen in any video game. And it's such a shame that not more developers take inspirations there. Then there is Witcher, as I read all the books and played all the games. Kingdom Come, because I am a huge medieval fan. I love knights and castles, and because I am also from Czechia. And all the Souls game, especially Sekiro with its unique combat system.
One of the things that you've often referenced is making the combat feel authentic, historically accurate. There's a big emphasis on that. I've seen other YouTubers talk about the movement of the character, the way the armor moves, the way that they hold the sword. It's been said that it's it's more accurate than other games that have achieved to do that. Why is that so important to you? Why is there such an emphasis on that aspect?
Because I've always hated the depiction of European medieval combat in movies and games. You know, the typical Hollywood knights movie or medieval movie with the blue filter and everything's muddy and so on. And then they take the sword in the hand and it weighs 20 kilos and they are spinning with it and doing these big overswings, and it just looks terrible. And I first believed in the argument that it has to be like that, otherwise it wouldn't be fun or watchable. The more I studied HEMA, historical European martial art, I realized that it is just not true. The real thing looks so much better than what Hollywood tries to show us, and it looks more enjoyable. And even Elden Ring, he does that as well. There has to be, of course, some compromises, right? You cannot implement the HEMA one-to-one into the game or even into the movies, but it can be done so much better. Even in Knight's Path, we don't want to make the combat 100% realistic. That's not possible. Even Kingdom Come doesn't achieve that. But the gameplay and the fun combat is our top priority.
For someone who hasn't played it, the feedback so far that I've seen is that the combat is incredible. Could you explain to someone who hasn't played the game what the combat is and how it's structured and where it takes inspiration from?
Combat system is grounded in HEMA, historical European martial art, and we will have proper stances like in German vom Tag, or in English upper guard or plow, Nebenhut, and so on and so on. Proper attacks, techniques. Also, we have this combat skill progression system, which is inspired by Gothic, and that also adds another layer of realism and immersion. Our combat and the RPG system, you start and you never held a sword in your life. You take the sword in your hand, you are weak, you don't know how to hold it properly, so you don't go into one of those HEMA stances, you just hold it awkwardly, and then you try to swing it. You are not used to that weight of the sword, even though, as we established, swords are not as heavy as the media wants to convey. But still, you are weak, you are not used to the weight of the weapon, and you overswings every attack. You don't even know that spin attacks are really dangerous and not effective, so you even try to do some spin attacks, and the combat looks awkward because you as the player character are awkward with the sword. But then you learn. You find the teachers the same way as in Gothic. You have to find someone that knows how to fight. He will learn you how to hold the sword properly, that you shouldn't overswing, how to properly attack, some advanced techniques, and so on. So as an adept, we have 4 skill level systems: novice, adept, expert, and master. So as a novice, you are this absolute beginner. Adept, you know some basics and you try to do it right, but you are still not there. As expert, you already are pretty good. And as a master, you are absolute HEMA beast that swings very effectively with no overswings, can do the most advanced techniques, and so on and so on. This is something where, in my opinion, realism and immersion goes hand in hand with the fun. Because it is fun for me as a player to see my character completely changes his whole animation set. To see him on the beginning to hold the sword awkwardly, and at the end to hold it like the most badass knight in the world.
What would you say makes Knight's Path unique? So when you compare it to a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or even Elden Ring or any game, as a matter of fact, Gothic, what would you say is the most unique aspect about your game?
So definitely it will be the RPG progression, the combat system, I would say even the armor progression. With comparison with Kingdom Come Deliverance, Knight's Path is a very different game. It is set in low fantasy world. Do not expect a historical setting like in Kingdom Come. Third-person camera game, so we really see the progression of your player character through the armor and through the movement and combat. The combat is similar to Sekiro, based on the parrying and deflection and counterattacks, which fits perfectly to the HEMA-inspired combat. RPG system, I would say, is really immersive. For example, we don't go that way that you unlock some skill and it adds 2% to this and this. But when you unlock some skill or learn something in Knight's Path, it really changes the whole animation, or you can really feel the progress. It will not be some invisible stat that you never notice. You really feel like you are progressing. Another thing where KCD focuses more on the setting and the story, at least in my opinion, and they are incredible, by the way, in KCD. Knight's Path focuses more on the core gameplay. It will be like Elden Ring, for example. It's just gameplay, right? The whole game is gameplay. Not like God of War, you have gameplay bits and you have cinematic bits and so on. So Knight's Path will also focus more on the gameplay part and combat and RPG progression.
Will there be NPCs in the game? Like, will there be towns of people? And will there be side quests? Like, will there be dialogue where you're speaking to people, making decisions, doing side quests? Is that part of the game, or is it more story based?
Yeah, definitely. So do not expect, like in Souls games, this crumbled, destroyed world with just few NPCs here and there and filled with enemies. Our world is perfectly functional, even though it's dangerous, but we will have towns, villages full of NPCs, just like Gothic, Witcher, or Kingdom Come Deliverance. There will be NPCs, they will have quests, they will have their stories and characters. We are going for quality over quantity. Don't expect a huge world. I'm not a fan of large, often empty, realistic open worlds. I prefer smaller, denser, and more engaging worlds that feel alive. You know, like places you truly get to know and eventually you can call home, like in Gothic II. The core is I know every stone in that game, in that town, and thanks to the chapter system that Gothic introduced, which we'll also be doing, our game will be divided into 4 chapters. In each one, the world will change in some way, right? The NPCs will change in some way. They will progress in their storylines, and it will ensure that it never becomes boring and will always feel alive, even though it will be smaller than I don't know, the huge open worlds of Ubisoft games and Witcher 3 or even Kingdom Come.
About the open world, will there be horse traversal, cart traversal, or is it just on foot?
You cannot have a knight without a horse, right? But yeah, there will be no horses. So it is a little contradiction, but it's just out of scope for us. And the world will be, as we mentioned, smaller. So there is no need for a horse. It will be designed so you can really travel on foot everywhere and it will not be boring. And we would love to have horses, but if we would have horses, we would want to do it properly. I mean, horse combat, jousting, you know, and everything. And it is simply out of scope for us, for indie developers. So we had to do this difficult decision and cut the horses out of the game.
Are there side quests in the game? Is it like, you know, like in Witcher 3, you get notice boards. In Skyrim, people flag you over. Will there be that kind of setup with side quests?
There will be definitely some side quests. As I mentioned, quality over quantity, and we will try to make it as immersive and as tied to the main story, to the characters or themes of the game as much as possible. Our approach to it, if we will add the side quest, it has to reveal something to us, right? About the character, about the world, or about the main story.
Just are there additional features? Like, are there any mini games like blacksmithing, fishing? You know the sort of lock picking. Is there any of that in the game?
Lock picking, you mentioned, yeah, definitely. So overall, we don't plan really mini games. We are focusing on the core gameplay loop to be as fun and polished as possible. I think that mini games have only a meaning when game is fun, right? When the core gameplay loop is fun, then you want to do more in the game. So we are focusing first on the core gameplay loop, and then we might see. But minigames are definitely not our focus. That being said, lockpicking is essential part of the game, so lockpicking will be definitely there. But yeah, blacksmithing, fishing, and so on, that's not something that we plan to introduce at the moment.
With the NPCs, will there be voice acting in this game?
Oh yeah, definitely. In our concept demo, which I emphasize was just a concept, it is not really a demo to our game. We also had voice acting, but as it was just a concept, we used text-to-speech, and it was one of the main critic of our concept demo, and we totally understand it. It was done just for the concept, and for the main game, we will definitely use just the real human voice actors, which are contacting us in mass to be part of the game. So yeah, we will definitely use them.
The enemy AI reacts incredibly intelligent. I know it's very early stages, but it looks good. They seem to be like. Can you explain why that was important to make that happen?
Again, realism meets fun. There is a problem in Elden Ring, in my opinion. You can play the whole game just by jumping and doing strong attacks, which are meta. Lots of streamers just finish the game this way because it deals the most damage, or how to call it, the stun damage or whatever. Some hardcore gamers will definitely correct me on this. Enemies doesn't react to you spamming one type of the attack. And I think it first breaks the immersion to me, and second, it doesn't use the whole brilliant combat system that Elden Ring has, for example. And that's what we wanted to change. And it is at the same time realistic. So what we done, it is also in our concept demo, but we expanded on it in our full game. The NPCs are learning your patterns. So, for example, and it's also based on the skill level of the enemy, right? So, for example, Novice will remember one of your attack types. So if you use just light attacks, the enemy will learn and remember that pattern at some point, and then it will start to block it, parry it, or even counter these type of attacks. And then you have a master, and that one can learn and remember up to 5 or 6 type of attacks. But at that point, you also can do much more type of attacks, not get parried or counter attack. You have to switch your attack patterns. You have to be unpredictable, right? For example, if me and you were in boxing ring, and only thing I would do would be right hook, right? At some point, you will know, hey, here comes right hook. I just block it and counter it. So you have to be unpredictable and use the whole arsenal of your attacks. And this way you cannot spam just one attack. You have to, it gets more tactical, it gets more realistic, and it gets more enjoyable, in my opinion. Another thing is the enemy can execute, let's say, strong thrust attack. And because you countered it, it will remember, okay, he knows how to counter my thrust attack. I will not do it as often. Or the enemy executes the strong thrust attack and it hits. I wasn't able to counter it. So the enemy will say, he doesn't know how to counter my thrust attack. I will do it more often, right? Until you learn. And these kind of dynamic ways approach the combat, I think it makes it much more, as I mentioned already, realistic and enjoyable.
Do you want to go over the story and decision making, that sort of elements?
So, not in detail, to be honest, because this is still work in progress. I cannot say for sure this will be in the game or not, but we would definitely like to introduce faction and decision making for the side quest or even the main quest with different endings. The question is, how much will it increase the scope? How much will we be able to introduce in that regard? So I cannot promise anything, but that's the approach we are going right now. And the story overall, you can expect grounded, personal, realistic story. It will be for adults, something like Kingdom Come Deliverance, more like a fairy tale, kind of classical way of storytelling. Become a hero, save the princess, kill the dragon, maybe big wedding at the end. It will be, I think, nice change to all the gritty and dark stories and world. We will also have dark moments and dark and adult moments in the story, but the overall theme will be this classical fairy tale that fits very well to the knight's path, right? To someone becoming a knight.
Tell me about the studio. How many people are involved in this project? How long have you been working on this project? Just a little story about yourselves.
So currently we don't even have a studio. We are really just a few guys that are working on the game in our free time. Crazy to think about that. But it's me and my friend Amen that we created the concept demo. We are working on the game as much as we can. Then we have Taigen, our incredible 3D modder that is responsible for all the historical 100% historical armors in most cases. And we are collaborating with Paul from Mocap Central that is doing the mocap animation for us, which are, by the way, available on the marketplace, because as we approached the Paul from Mocap Central, we wanted from the beginning to create these more historical HEMA animations for our game, and also to make it available for other indie game developers. So we help to fight this misconception of the European weapons and its combat styles. So more indie games have better, more historical animations. We have many volunteers. They just want to help us with the game because they just want to be part of the game. I think that's absolutely incredible how the community tries to help us. For example, we have many voice actors that just contacted us, want to be part of the game, and doesn't ask anything in return.
Why make a game? Because there's so many people, who have dreams of making a game, or, but like to actually do it is another thing. What's the reason for doing the game? And how do you balance realism with your dreams?
First, because there just isn't such a game, right? We are not doing like a Souls clone, just to make money and to drive that Souls wave, so to speak. But there isn't this kind of game, which combines the great combat system of Sekiro with HEMA-inspired setting, more historical setting, with Gothic RPG progression, and so on and so on. There just isn't such a game, and I want to play it. I want to play it, and no one seems to be making it. So I realized maybe we are able to do it. So here we are. We are trying to make the game that I want to play. And as it turned out, many others. We just established what is the core of the game, right? For example, we knew we really want to focus on the RPG progression, which meant we have to have awesome armors, because for me, it really motivates me to progress through the game when I know that when I save this much money, I will be able to buy this awesome looking armor, which will help me against these strong enemies and so on. So we knew we have to really focus on making awesome looking armors. Then we knew that the combat, why we want to make this game, is to introduce this more realistic HEMA-inspired combat. So we knew that the combat system have to be awesome and that the animation has to look believable and more realistic. So we also focused on that. That was actually my biggest fears, that we will not be able to do that. When we didn't met Taigen and Paul, the animator, that was what I feared the most, because those were the core elements of the game, and we knew that without it, it wouldn't make sense to make the game, right? So we established this core elements, then we established the things that we would like to do, but are not essential. Some of them we already cut off, like the horse riding, for example, and some of them are in the ideas bracket that we might to do when there's time and resources for it, and if not, we will cut it out as well. And yeah, it is essential part of the development. Every game had to make compromises and cut some stuff.
Recently you released a demo. What was the community feedback from that? Like, what type of feedback did you receive? And did anything surprise you? And what have you learned and applied to the game afterwards?
So we released a concept demo. Again, I'm emphasizing that it was just a concept that we have made just with marketplace assets and just with 2 people to gather the feedback from players. What surprised me, even before release, when we tested it, how many ways are players able to break the game. That was really mind-blowing for me. So all the absolutely incredible and creative ways how to break the game, we of course in the testing phase tried to fix it, and fixed it in most parts, I think. And the feedback was really positive, which was very nice, of course. At the same time, it was very constructive. So it showed us that people really like what they played or the direction we are going, and they were interested in giving us really constructive and long feedback how to ensure that we learn and make the full game better. And that's exactly why we released the concept demo. So we were super happy about that, and we listened carefully to the feedback, but we really wrote it down, and I think we fixed everything that people criticized about the game or the combat. There was really technical feedback about the combat system as well. It shows that many players really knows their stuff. Really technical things that you would expect only developers know about. So yeah, it was awesome. Of course, there was some critique, especially as I mentioned, our use of text-to-speech, so the NPCs aren't mute. But as I mentioned, that was only for the concept demo. We didn't have any resources to make it voice-acted, and we didn't want to make it mute. And it will not be the case in the full game.
What platforms are you targeting? Is it going to be PC exclusive?
Steam release is definitely our goal. That's what we are focusing on, and that's what we are doing right now. When the game is released on Steam, we will want to and try to release on PlayStation and Xbox. Of course, that's so far ahead that I cannot promise anything, but we would like to.
Just for anyone who wants to know, what does the roadmap look like? When is the next demo? What is the expected release date, if you have one? Just a general idea.
So release day when it's ready. We don't want to rush it. We don't have any publisher. We decided, that's also maybe important note to the concept demo. When we released the concept demo, we were looking for publisher to finance the game. But after release of the concept demo, we were approached by some publishers. We were in serious discussions, but we then decided that we actually don't need one. And we want to keep our creative freedom, and we don't want to rush it. So we are without a publisher. We are really independent, will not rush the game, and we will release when it's ready. That being said, what I can say is we are right now focusing on a new demo, which will represent the game's qualities much better than our concept, which was just a concept. And that we plan to release later in the next year.
For anyone who's watching this video, if they want to support you guys and help, what can they do to help?
So for now, the best way is to follow us on social media, X, Instagram, Discord, YouTube. Share the project, spread the word. Later on, we might do Patreon. If there is some interest, we will try it. And with the release of the demo, we plan to start a Kickstarter campaign.
And that brings our interview to an end. I want to thank Jan for taking the time to speak with me and wish the whole team good luck on the release with their work on Knight's Path. I could feel the passion from the developer in this interview, and it truly looks like an incredible game. In the video description, you'll find links to all of Knight's Path's socials so that you can go and support the project and look out for any new updates. If you enjoyed this interview, please give the video a like, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Finally, if you want to see more interviews like this, please check out the interview playlist linked in the description. Thank you for watching. Av out.